You're watching Adorama TV.
Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Adorama TV's iPad app reviews. I'm Mark Wallace. Well, this week you can see that we have things set up a little bit differently than we normally do, and that's because we have an app that's pretty awesome, and we need all this stuff set up just to show you how powerful it is. It's actually called DSLR Remote HD, and it's made by onOne software. And so let me walk you through how this works. It's an application that allows you to control your camera from your iPad. Now what you need though is you need to be able to tether your camera to either a laptop or a desktop machine, and then you have to install a little piece of software on either your desktop or your laptop, and it's called the DSLR Remote server, and you can just download that from onOne software. And then you install the DSLR Remote HD app on your iPad, and then all that stuff is going to talk to each other, and you can control this from just about anywhere. It's really, really cool. So what I'm going to do here is we already have our DSLR Remote server software launched, and we plugged our camera into the laptop here. Now you can plug this in either using FireWire or USB. It really depends on the interface that your camera uses, and this will work with a PC or a Mac. So you can use the iPad and put the server on a PC. It works just fine. It's really pretty fancy. Now once I have that all set, I have this camera. I've set it to manual mode, and the autofocus is on, but I'm going to control everything right over here on my iPad. So here's what I do. I'll first launch DSLR Remote, and when it launches, the first thing it's going to do is look for the server. Now both the iPad and the laptop, or wherever the server is on, has to be on the same network. So these are both on a Wi-Fi network. And it shows up here, it says Mark Wallace's MacBook Pro. When I click that, this is going to connect. And now that it's connected, we can see that there's this black little area here. Now that is actually a space that's going to show what, pictures when they come through the system. So what I'm going to do here is right at the top, there's a little switch that says Live View, and right now it's set to off. When I turn that on, boom, there is our stunt pig. Now what we're going to do is our producer Kelsey is going to come out, and she's going to show you that this actually works in real time. So Kelsey's back there, and Kelsey, if you could just rotate our stunt pig around, you can see that in real time what's happening on the camera is actually showing up on the iPad. And I can even click this in full screen, and now we can see that as that's zipping around, we have a nice real-time view. So leave it right there, it looks pretty good. Now what I'm going to do here is, because Kelsey moved that around a little bit, well, it's out of focus. So on this screen right here, I've got this little AF button. So I can push that, and it's going to tell the camera to turn on its autofocus and focus on the subject. Then I can hit this big fire button, and just like that, it actually takes a picture. Now when the camera takes a picture, what happens is the picture travels along this cable. It's stored on your laptop or desktop, whatever you have your camera tethered to, and then the computer will send a little thumbnail over to the iPad. And I'll exit full screen here, and you can see right at the top there's a little thumbnail of our pig. So if I take a few shots here of our pig, I'll take just 2 more. You can see that now we have 3 pigs up there at the very top, and I can click those and go through them. They look all the same because the pig hasn't moved. I can turn those thumbnails on and off if I want to. It's pretty cool. I can do all kinds of stuff with this. Now one of the things that's really, really neat about this, let's say I want to change something like the shutter speed or the aperture value. Well, I can just go in here. Let's say I'm going to change my aperture value from 4.5, let's say, to 3.2. So I can do that. And now our exposure is a little overexposed, so I need to speed up my shutter speed. So I go down here. I'm going to go from 1/25th, let's say, up to 1/40th. So that should balance things out. And then I can take my picture, and it works exactly as we planned. I can change my ISO setting. So I'm going to leave it at 200 so I don't mess things up too much, but I can change the ISO. I can change my shutter speed. I can change my white balance. So I can, let's go ahead and say this is set to flash. That's going to change the color. You can see now it's all orange. I can say I'm going to set that to incandescent light. That looks pretty good. I can change the size of the files. So all of those things that you normally would see on the back of your camera, well, they're showing up here. So I could say, hey, I want to have this as a large JPEG fine or a RAW file or whatever. And when I take a picture, if I'm shooting large fine JPEGs, well, they're just going to show up on my hard drive right here. If I'm shooting RAW, it's going to go right into my computer, and just the thumbnail is going to come to my iPad. So you get the benefit of being able to see things in live view and control your camera from the iPad, and the benefit of those big files going right over to a laptop or a desktop at really quick speeds. So you don't have to worry about transferring everything back and forth. It's really, really nice. Now, one of the cool things about the camera server software is there's a little button that you can check, and it will actually create a copy that can be used with Lightroom's auto import feature. So if you're a Lightroom user and when you click fire, if you want those to show up in Lightroom, well, you can set that up to do that as well, and that's all built right in. Well, let me show you a couple more things about DSLR Remote that I really like. One is there's something called burst mode, and so what that allows you to do, if you have your camera set to continuous shooting mode, what I can do is I'm going to go in here, I'm going to only set this to, let's say, 5 shots. I've got that set to 5 shots, and this is a pretty speedy camera. It's the D3S. Now what happens is, now when I say fire, it's going to fire off 5 shots as fast as the camera can do it. So here we go. And a whammo, just like that. I just took 5 pictures, and so that allows you, if you're a sports shooter or trying to capture something that's moving right along, you can just click that and you get some really quick responses. Now you can turn off live view to get even faster responses if you really want to speed up the system. So I'm going to turn burst mode off. Now let me show you auto bracketing. So when I click auto bracketing, it's going to ask me how much I want to go over or under. So we can say 1, 2, up to 5 stops. You can do full stops. You can do third stops as well. And so you can say 1.6, 0.3, so that's third, 2/3 stops, whatever. And then you can say how you want to change that bracketing, either by adjusting the aperture, the ISO speed, or shutter speed. I'm going to change the shutter speed because I want to keep my depth of field the same. And then it'll say if you need to have a delay or not. Well, I don't need a delay, so I'll say start, 1, 2, 3, just like that. And I've got my shots all lined up, and it's just going to keep doing that until I have all of the shots. So it's going to make sure it's got one that's right, one that's over, one that's under, and then I can go in here and look at those. So that's why we had multiple exposures. Now it's really nice that I can go in there and turn that off, so I make sure I don't have auto bracketing going over and over. The other thing that's really cool about this software is it has an intervalometer, and so if you want to do time-lapse photography, that's what you need. And so the intervalometer allows you to do things like saying, what's the interval? So right now we have this set to 1 second. So we can go 1 second, 2 seconds, all the way up to different hours. If you're shooting something that might take a few days, you could say, hey, I want to do this shot once every 12 hours and keep your iPad plugged in so the battery doesn't run down, the same with your camera and everything. And that will take a shot once every 12 hours. So you can have it all the way down to 1 second. The other thing you can do is you can say, well, how many shots do you want to take? So for our illustration, we'll just say we want to take 3 shots. And then it asks if you want to wait on the first shot. So when you hit fire, do you want to wait that 1 second or 12 hours, or whatever it is? We don't, so we're going to leave that off. Then I can say start. And that's going to take a shot. It's going to wait for a second. It's going to take another shot. It's going to wait for a second and take another shot. And if I had that set to, let's say, 5,000 images, it would just keep shooting until it got there. And that way you can do some really neat time-lapse photography, and you can make sure what you're getting is exactly what you need, because you're getting a live view right here on your iPad, so you can control that. So we've got live view, we've got burst mode, we've got auto bracketing, we have an intervalometer. We can actually save images to our iPad. We can have our server connecting to Lightroom, so everything is already in a catalog if we want to. There's even a video mode that we're not going to show you today, but allows you to make sure you're controlling your video from your camera. And all of these things, depending on what you're doing, really depends on the features of your camera in addition to the features of the iPad application as well. So there you have it. That's a brief overview of onOne Software's DSLR Remote for the iPad. Again, it's $50. And it will work with a Mac or a PC. And for full compatibility of all the different cameras that work with this, make sure you check out their website, the onOne Software website, so you can see all the different cameras that are compatible with this software. Well, thanks so much for joining us this week. Remember, if you have an iPad app that you would love for me to review, please send your suggestion to me at AskMark@Adorama.com. Thanks again for joining me this week, and I'll see you again next week.
This episode is brought to you by Adorama TV. Visit the Adorama Learning Center, where you'll find photography tips and techniques, links to the gear used in this episode, and related videos. For all the latest photography, video, and computer gear, visit Adorama.com. And the next time you're in New York City, visit our store located on 18th Street between 5th and 6th Avenue.